Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name's Vin PF, and on today's episode we've got another Sample Saturday, and we've got another exceptionally good Sample Saturday, the first of many to come. But before I get into the actual video and what we're doing here today, I'm going to do what I normally do, and I'm going to pour these whiskies out, especially these ones and some of the ones I've got on my shelf coming up, because these are old whiskies and I want to give these as much time as I can to air out. Now I'm going to pour these straight away. I'll get into each one in turn, but as you can see, I'm cracking these. This is going to hurt some people because this is some ancient Scotch right here. But whiskey, in my opinion, should be drank, and not hoarded or flipped to the ends of the earth. But Lord knows what these things have been through, so I'm going to give them as much time as I can. So let's pour these out. And we'll go through what we've got. I mean, you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. And in a couple of weeks' time, you'll have no problem telling what I'm doing here. There we go. They're all in Glencairns down there. Okay, so I do that on camera. I could have done it off camera, but the whole point of these Sample Saturday videos, as they've morphed into what they are, is that these are really my first impressions of a whiskey that I've never tried before. And the only way I can prove that is to crack that seal on camera. I could do that off camera. I could leave these airing for 20 minutes or whatever. But I don't know, then I don't want to be disingenuous to you guys because I'm going to have smelt it. I'm going to have tried it. So I want to give that kind of first impression vibe. But yeah, so I think it's important to show you that, to show me you pouring it, a bit of waffle, and then we'll get into the actual whiskies themselves a bit later on. But what I'll probably try and do is do some chapters. So if you're not interested in this kind of waffly bit at the start, then we'll move on to that. And you can go check out my review of these. Now, as you would have seen from the thumbnail and probably the title, which is unknown at the moment, today what we've got here is 3 Aberlour-Glenlivets, as they used to go by. Now, obviously, the distillery is just Aberlour. But yeah, back in the day, it used to be called Aberlour-Glenlivet, as a lot of distilleries in that kind of Speyside region used to be, because Glenlivet isn't just a distillery, it actually means something. It literally means valley of the river Livet, which runs through Speyside. So a lot of them used that moniker, but it's not something that we see very often anymore, or if at all, apart from just Glenlivet. So yeah, interesting one. Now, we've got here 3 different decades of Aberlour-Glenlivet. We've got a 9-year-old here from the 70s. We've got a 12-year-old from the 80s, and we've got a 12-year-old from the 90s. I think that's the bottling era rather than distilling era. A good guess. I'm going by very limited information. Now, the reason why I've got these today, and as I've got quite a lot of these to come up as well, but if you remember last month before last, maybe November, I did some really, really old whiskies, courtesy of another channel, a guy called Mark Littler, and he got in touch with me for those videos to say, pick some stuff off an auction website, we'll send you the samples, and then you can do your honest reviews of them. In this situation, that worked really well. I really enjoyed doing that. In this situation, he's been squirreling around in the background, buying loads of little samples of all over the place, and he just texted me saying, we're going to do it again, but I've got a lot of samples. And I'll do a picture for you now to see. I did a picture on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, please do. I've got 38 of these things to get through. So I'm going to be breaking them down into groups of, I think actually, some of them are individuals, but there's 2, 3, 4s and 5s. Of all these different kind of really old sample-sized scotches from all over the place, and of all different kinds of interest and ages and whatnot. So it's a very exciting thing. I'm going to try not to kind of like smash it down your throat every weekend. It's going to be interspersed with other things, but that's what we're doing today. We're in collaboration with Mark Littler. He sent me these drams. I just give them my honest opinion, and I get to try some awesome stuff, and hopefully you'll enjoy vicariously tasting some of these samples. The original point of the video last time was to kind of showcase that although these aren't cheap, I don't know exactly how much each of these would have cost him, but the bottles of them are incredibly expensive. You know, some of these older ones are going for hundreds of pounds now. Actually, I think the last time this 90s one sold, it was about 45, so not too bad actually. Probably less of an interest. But it's a lot of money to spend on a bottle that you don't know anything about and could easily be spoiled. You know, these have been sat around for ages. The point of it was that if you saw that bottle at a bar and you could try something from the 70s for about sort of £20-30 for a shot or a dram, you probably would, right? It'd be an interesting thing. You'd never get to try it again. So that was the original point, was to try and like showcase that its samples are a kind of viable way of doing that. That's not the case anymore. Now we're just going to be showcasing different groups of things, and it's just a bit of added extra interest. Okay, enough waffle over. If you've supported that waffle, then thank you from my heart. But, you know, welcome to the tasting side of things now. Right, let's get into them in order. I don't really know, because I haven't tried them before. I don't really know what order I'm going for here. They're all 40% one way or the other. So what I'm going to do is hit them from the earliest to the most recent. Alright, so without further ado then, let's get into the first one then. So, first one here, as you can tell by this wee little label, what we've got here is a 9-year-old Glenlivet, Aberlour-Glenlivet. It says 70% proof on there, but that's not to be confused with the kind of American way of doing proof. In America right now, they use that quite a lot, and that's double ABV. This here, the old English version of proof, was 1.75 times what ABV would be. So that's dead on 40. This is a 40%er. This one here was bottled by Campbell's Distillery Limited of Glasgow. There you go. Don't know much else about that. You know, there's some. The links that were provided to me were literally the last time they were sold at auction. That might have a little smattering of information on. So I'll copy those into the description below. So if you want to see that, by all means, go for it. There we are then. There's the liquid. Bottled in the 70s at 9-year-old. So. Well, at least it smells like whiskey, you know. Some of these things, you have to be careful with samples, especially like that have been around for decades. They could have let some air in, all kinds of weird stuff could have happened. But you know me, as I like to do on these things, I like to have a little sniff and then do a little taste and then go back to the nose. So let's do that. Oh my. Oh, that just changed as it went through as well. Okay. Beautiful legs on that. Right. Do you know what? So my initial impressions of the nose are quite musty. I'm getting a lot of kind of old dank book off of it, but I get that off some new whiskies anyway. Actually, it smells very contemporary. Is probably the good word for it. It smells like any old whiskey that I could have tried these days, which is interesting. You know, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting something probably a little bit more heavy hitting, but it's got a nice, yeah, I said the musty nose. It's very nutty. It's not as sherry as I was expecting it to be. It's definitely in there, but it isn't like kind of like heaps of dried fruits. It's just very light and understated. Very different to the palate, which we're going to go back to now. I mean, no, it's gorgeous. I mean, like I said the first time around, it's just morphing as I'm trying to pick out tasting notes on the fly. And before I got a chance to decide what I'm thinking, it changes. We have another quick sip. Okay. It's a little sweet on the front end. A little bit of those kind of juicy raisins coming through. Definitely some nuttiness on the back end. It morphs very quickly into a kind of, I want to say like a white peppery spiciness. Some of that fruitiness is still there. The back end is, the kind of finish wise, is medium long, quite peppery, not very fruity, disappears off quite nicely, and quite nutty towards the back end actually. Really nice actually, that's really lovely. I enjoy that. Yeah, difficult to do these on the fly ones, but that's the way we like these videos. Water here because we're doing 3 today. Alright, next up then, we've got, this is an interesting one because it's a little square wean. So this one's actually 4.7 centilitres, which is less than what we normally get. But this is an 80s bottling of a 12-year-old Aberlour. Now, they've been using sherry casks for ages. I don't know anything about colour or anything like that, but these are all much of a muchness. So, do you know what? That's funny. I don't actually know when added colour became common practice. Some of you guys know more than me about whiskey, so if you know that information, drop it in the comments below. All right, let's see what we've got here. Looks quite nice and thick. I like that in a whiskey. Let's try on the nose. Wow, yeah. That just keeps on giving, that does. Compared to this one, whereas that's like, yeah, nutty and musty, this is so different. It's almost a little bit polishy, but like, I don't mean that in a bad way at all, you know, like if you've got some furniture polish, it smells really nice, I think. I quite like furniture polish. I'm getting heaps of red apples, like fresh red apples off of this. Okay, I don't normally do that. I normally have a little taste first, so let's do that. Okay. Doing my, like, literally computing, deciding. It's so different from the first one. So many times. Right, okay, back to the nose. Let's back to the nose. Hopefully you love these on the fly ones, because literally this is me doing this. This is what I do when I'm recording my normal videos. I'll do this off screen usually, but okay. So much fruitier on the nose than the first one. Heaps of kind of raisins, figs, those kind of fresh apples for sure. Let's go back to the palate. Yeah, this one's definitely bringing in some vanillas at the front. Oof, loads of apples, but the back end, I tell you what, what really ramps into it's coffee grinds. Loads of like mocha, a bit of chocolate, a bit of mocha coffee is what I'm getting from this, which is a tasting note I don't usually pull out, but that's my impression of that. That's so good. Considering, I mean, all of these are 40%. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. Let's move on to the next one. Quick swish. Finally then on the table, another, again, all of these are Aberlour-Glenlivet. This one's bottled in the 90s. This is just says 12-year-old single malt, so you can see the modern day influence, or, you know, whatever, what is now the modern day labels is starting to come through a little bit. They don't look too dissimilar to this these days, but obviously, you know, enough. And the 12-year-old is pretty much their staple going on, obviously introducing other ones as well, but this is definitely the only one online I could find that was definitely like, this is sherry cask. So yeah, again, not sure about all the rest of it. Okay, this is getting back into that musty book territory, but it's got a kind of what is that? Almost like it's like pear drops. All right, palate. Okay. Bigger flavour profile for sure. Okay, back to the nose. Let's do this properly. Now, you know what? I got it right first time. Some definite sherry notes in there, but there's that pear drops thing is huge on the back end of this, on the nose. Lovely. It's my favourite nose so far. Back to the palate. Yeah, it's lost a bit of viscosity from the last one, but it's huge. The huge sherry notes are coming through now. Loads of those pears. Not so much red apples, but definitely pears. This one really sours out at the back end. Actually, not pleasantly so. Yeah, quite sweet up front, and then very quickly disappearing into kind of like sour oak. Okay, I'm going to go back to the middle one quickly. And see what's occurring with that now. Yeah, I mean, hands down, that middle one's my favourite one. Without a doubt. I'm not even going to cleanse, I'm going to go back to this one. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're all very good. They're all much of a muchness. I wish I'd had like a current Aberlour to compare it to, because I feel like that all of these have a very contemporary flavour profile. You know, like sometimes when you're trying really old stuff, like I've got a couple of Linkwards up there. Linkwood always been a firm favourite for me when I've been able to get bottlings of it. But older Linkwood, before it started kind of like hitting kind of modern marketing, was just stunning, which I hope carries on with those ones, but I haven't tried them yet, so I might be going in with high expectations. And there's some whiskies, like they just hit differently back then. You know, I don't think, I mean they must have done, but I don't think they knew how to make it like super cheap. Like nowadays we have like super cheap whiskey that's been, and it goes through marketing departments and it comes out the other end with a fancy story that means next to nothing. And these ones here all taste like they could be current whiskies, which is a weird thing to say, I know, but I'm sure you get what I'm talking about. Super glad to have tried these. I have no idea how much. Obviously, that's the big thing about this. None of these are worth the money that you would actually pay for this. You know, people that are buying these bottles aren't buying them to open them; they're buying them to collect them and maybe, hopefully, make some profit on it. But so I don't think they're worth running out for to try and get them unless you've got all that money and you want to try something really interesting. But for me, for what it's worth, the pure malt Aberlour-Glenlivet from the 80s, that's my pick of this bunch. And probably my least favourite actually was the first one. Yeah, I mean that's starting to smell really weird now. It's almost like vegetal. It's morphing into us. I mean, obviously I could have left these out for a lot longer, but that's what it is. There you go. Longer video than usual, but there's a lot of explaining at the front end. So let me know what you think about that. If you'd rather me sort of cut that out and you can just trust me that I don't mess around with it, then let me know what you think about that. But if you're enjoying these videos, let me know. I've got loads of these style videos coming up and I'm really looking forward to delving into some of them because I don't know anything about a lot of these whiskies. So a lot of it's like, I have no research to do. I just have to use my nose and just see what we get. But there you go. That's another Sample Saturday. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hit the thumbs up if you have and let me know in the comments below what you think about stuff like this. Cheers. See you again.